Hello, everyone. Just wanted to check in with you. Let everyone know what's going on as far as church stuff that we know at this point. We know state of Virginia issued a stay-at-home order. The governor did that yesterday. You can read more about it, find the stipulations and things like that. But it's going to be taking us as a church through Easter without the ability to gather together. So we're going to try to think up ways to basically get us together virtually. Online, there's a lot of different ways, a lot of different paths we can take like that. So, of course, some of the community events and things like that we were planning on doing, of course, are going to have to kind of be put on the back burner just because it's the way things are. I hate it. I don't like it at all. It feels really weird for me not to go to church. Not because, I'm preaching to a computer screen, but because, church is family. You miss church, you miss your family, you miss all those things. But we're still continuing to reach out. Deacons are continuing to check with the families that they've been assigned. Of course, any of you at any time can reach out to me if you've got something going on. If you need to talk, if you need counseling, something like that going on during this time, listen, this whole FaceTime thing, Skype, there's a lot of different ways. I've got some ability to set up Zoom meetings and things like that. I've even thought about maybe trying to do a Bible study off of the Zoom where everybody can be online and see each other and still kind of communicate and stuff like that, but do it as virtually as we can. So there's things there in the background that we're looking at and trying to figure out and trying to do. The biggest thing we need to do is just be encouraged. I know that's really weird to say, to be encouraged during a time of crisis like this, but we've got to be encouraged. We've got to understand that, despite all that goes on, despite of how bad this may or may not get, we need to remain faithful. We need to remain loving to our friends and our neighbors and those that are around us that really need people to care for them. There's a lot of people in the communities that I know get overlooked. There's a lot of widows and widowers and different things like that where they're getting overlooked. So if you know someone, reach out to them, give them a phone call. If they've got internet and stuff like that, try to set up a video chat, because I know sometimes just seeing a face as you're talking to someone helps out. So if you can do that, do that. But as far as for us for church, we're going to try to figure out a way to do some type of virtual Easter service. I'm working on that, and we're going to work on it with the deacons and talk and figure out what we can do to try to do something on Easter Sunday to where it's a live streaming right then and there service. Now, of course, it's going to have to be a little bit different. Music and things like that, it's not going to be something that we're really going to be able to do a lot of just because of logistics, but also because of copyright and things like that. We do have copyright licenses and things like that to use music, produce music, and put it in the public's view that's copywritten. But of course, we're going to have to talk, all of us together, the choir director, Miss Barbara, the deacons, myself, all of us kind of figure out what we're going to do and how we're going to move forward with it. So I wanted to let you know that we are thinking about it. It's not just going to be a lost cause, because I think that, going into this time of Passover and this time of looking at the promises God has kept up with his people, with the chosen nation, the nation of Israel have been up and down throughout biblical history, throughout history, period. And God has always been there for them. God has always been loving, and he's always given them opportunity to turn and come back to them. So that's the big thing that we need to realize, is that even when we have issues like this, even when we're separated by a pandemic, something that we probably never thought we were going to see in our lifetimes, God is still with us. We can still be with each other, and we need to remember that the church is not the building that we worship in. It is the body of believers, the brothers and sisters in Christ that are reaching out and touching each other virtually like this, praying for one another, trying to keep one another up to date with what's going on, and prayer and all those things like that. As far as services and stuff like that, I don't know if you guys have looked or not, but I did add, of course, the video from last week that was on Facebook is on the website as well, was on Facebook, but we added, I guess, probably 8 or 9 sermons that haven't been on the website last week. I'm working on one right now. It should be up by tomorrow at the latest. Just logistically, I was recording it everybody knows my kids are home, and I've got 5 kids, so it's a little bit hard to make sure that things are still going when kids are making noise and doing other things. So it's like I kept hitting pause on the on the recording, and it was a whole mess of stuff. So anyway, we're going to try to get something up here before long. And it's talking about, how honestly, and I think it's something that we need to remind ourselves of and remember, it's how to not be a stumbling block for people through this time. And there's a great divide, I think, in what I've been seeing online and what I've been reading about with Christians, with ministers, with churches. There's this divide of people that are really willing to sit back and do what the government is recommending, and social distance and do those things. And then there's those that don't quite agree with it as much, and they're trying to press the issue. So I'm going to address that a little bit in the sermon, and addressing here in the video. The thing that we have to remember with all of this is that it's not just churches that are being asked to shut down. Now, I know there's a lot of things in the state of Virginia. That's all I can talk about. There's a lot of things that are open that probably you look at and you're like, this is stupid. Why would you have these open and these shut? And the church is one of those people, or one of those groups, that are being affected by it. I know there's a church in Florida that the pastor, now we're talking 2,000 and some members in this church, had church regardless of what the warnings and the stay-at-homes and all those things were. And I think he's got a warrant out for his arrest now because he just basically violated that. And I want to address it, but I want to say this right now, that we need to remember this isn't the government versus the church, or the church versus the government, or the government trying to push down people. At this point in time, I personally, just me, believe that it's in an attempt to keep the virus from going as crazy as it's going to if we just throw caution to the wind and do whatever we want to. Scripture and things, and I'm going to address this in the sermon, but quickly here, look at Scripture and look at what takes place. I think we're supposed to obey the law of the land. We're supposed to obey those that are in charge in the government and things like that, until it gets to a point to where it is interfering with their religious rights and their religious freedoms. Now, like I said, there's that argument. The government saying don't meet as a church, or we can charge you with I think it's a class 1 misdemeanor, $2,500 fine, 12 months in jail. That's the max, I think. But either way, think about that. You're going to put somebody in jail for meeting a church, but yet in other states they're letting people out of jail. Yeah, it's crazy. This is just a crazy time. But back to the point of the church. When we are told that we cannot worship together, period, or we are going to have an indefinite stay at home and these other places are going and blah, 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 that's the time to where we stand up and we say, listen, guys, we're going to make a stand as a church. We're going to make a stand as Christians. We're going to make a stand as Americans, and we're going to put a stop to this. And that may or may not come. We don't know. But we do know right now that the advice is to stay at home to keep this from going crazy. The worst thing about this is, and here's my fear, and this is for me as an individual, but also as a pastor, I am scared to death of having a meeting or having people together and then somebody gets sick or something happens to where they can trace it back to that meeting and say, hey, this is what happened. And then not only does it give the church, whether it's Stanley Baptist or wherever, a bad name, or the ministers or the people, whoever are leading it, but Christians in general then are going to be, there's going to be this little tick mark beside of them from that point forward of the Christians don't care about anybody but themselves, and look at this and look at this, and it will be used as a tool against us versus a tool to show our faith in God. We have to remember that when we talk about our faith and we talk about where we stand and things like that, not everybody's on that same sheet of music. Not everybody is in that same sense of place of mind, or in that same idea of being faithful and understand that God is going to protect us. But God expects us to be vigilant in what we do and not to test just to test. You think about some of the things here, when you do some of the things that we do in society and when we go out, we've got to remember that we need to be respectful not only of ourselves but those that we're encountering with us. We don't want to be a stumbling block, and we don't want to cause this to make the church universal, as far as Christians universal, look bad because they're making a choice to go against what's being recommended, and maybe people get sick or people die or whatever it may be. We don't want that. So the message this week is going to talk about that a little bit more. For now, just know that as far as everything goes with meetings and things like that, we know that Palm Sunday, Easter Sunday, that's April 5th, April 12th, that stuff's coming up now. And it's going to be hard not to do those things and be together during them, but we're going to try to find ways to make sure that we're still touching each other. So before we do anything else, I'll make sure that we announce it on Facebook, the website, and things like that, so everybody knows what's going on. We'll have links to the videos, YouTube, whatever it is that we use, whatever the platform is. And because this is going to push out a little bit longer, I'm thinking about trying to figure out a way to do a Bible study, a virtual Bible study. Now, it won't be Revelation, because I know that a lot of people want to do that face-to-face where we have more of that contact and things like that, and that's fine. But we can find some other sort of Bible study or something else we can do in the meantime, where we can meet once every other week or every week or whatever, do like the Zoom meeting or something along those lines, to where it's private and it's, it's a virtual meeting, but it can still have some of that intimacy. So be looking for those things and understand that, we're in this together. We're prayerfully looking for the end of this. We're prayerfully looking at the things that we can do to help stop some of this stuff going crazy, the things that we can do to support our community, support those within the community that are in need, the church, and all those things. We're still trying to function as a church as much as we can, but we're doing it with respect to what we've been told and what we've been warned with, as far as not letting these things go to where we're going to have meetings of over 10 people and people are going to get sick or are exposed to something, because this is something we don't want to see someone hurt or die because of our negligence. So think about that, and just remember that as we go through this, we are going through it together. Reach out to me, reach out to your deacons. There's emails on the website. It's StanleyBaptistChurch.org. So go there, look at what's going on and things like that. As far as updates, you can email me, you can reach out to me, you can reach out to deacons, you can do whatever you want. So just know that we're here for you. If you need to talk and you want to do something like this, to where it's a face-to-face kind of thing, we'll do it virtually. We'll set up something. If we can't do a Skype call, we'll figure out a Zoom or something along those lines to where we can meet. But know that we are constantly working through this together. We are praying for everyone involved in this. We're praying for all of the leaders in our governments, not only in our local, as far as Page County, moving up to the state, to the nation, and ultimately the whole world is dealing with this. So be prayerful for everybody that's involved in this and having to make some of these tough decisions, because despite of how we choose to agree or not to agree on what's being decided, it's still a tough place to be. And I would like to think that the people that are making these decisions are doing so in a thoughtful way. I can't say a prayerful way, because it's not my place to look and say, well, this person is or isn't a Christian or whatever. They say they are. That's a whole other ballgame. What I'm saying is just remember to pray for people. We know that our God is a mighty God. We know that God listens, He works, and He's active. And so we just need to remember that. We need to pray for people. We need to lift people up. And we need to be vigilant in what we do to ensure that we're doing our part. So with that, I'm going to let this be. Hopefully, fairly soon we're going to be able to get some more things going to where, you're going to see more active things like this, to where we can figure out things to face, virtually, of course. If you're in need, anything like that, let us know. We're still trying to function as a church. We might not be able to come in and visit with you, but we can arrange for food to be delivered, things like that. For those that don't have the internet, don't have the resources to do, the video chats or even go online, period. We're working on getting DVDs and audio CDs together so that somebody can pop it into the DVD player, watch me talk, I guess, if you want to look at my face while I'm talking, hear the sermon, see some of the things that's being done so that they know what's going on as well, and they're keeping up so they're not out in the dark. So we're working on that. So if you want to be a part of that, and I know I've had people reach out to me already, and we are going to use you as soon as we get this stuff, kind of a little bit more together. I'm going to start sending out some emails and getting some people together on, what they think that they can do to help, and what they're willing to do. There's a lot of things we can do behind the scenes. We don't have to be out and about and active to do things. So just remember, if you've got breath in your body and you've got a voice in any way, shape, or form, you can be a blessing to someone. You can reach out, you can pray, you can reach out and send cards, letters, phone calls, video messages, whatever it is. But remember, you do not have to be, a minister, a deacon, Sunday school teacher, whatever, to be an impactful Christian, a Christian that impacts people. You just have to be willing to listen to God, and you have to be willing to follow that Spirit and open your mouth. So remember that. Let's just get through this together, and hopefully as we move forward, more things will get together. We'll get it. Some of the stuff will be easier, and we'll go from there. So hopefully things get better. We're going to keep praying for it, and we'll talk to you later.